Hello again, everybody. Yesterday, I was showing you how to do some stenciling on fabric, and today I'm going to do a little bit of an extension of that, some other ideas of how to make some stencils. First of all, well, I'm Amanda from Ceredigion Museum, and we are making a quilt for the museum. Well, we're making two quilts actually for the exhibition that we're going to have when the museum reopens. So one of them is a digital quilt, which I don't know much about. Someone else will tell you about that. And the other one is a fabric, a real quilt that we're inviting people to decorate their own squares of fabric, and then we will sew them all together to make a quilt. What we're looking for is for people of Ceredigion their responses to the pandemic. So yesterday I made a little stencil on fabric of a runner bean pattern, because runner beans have marked my lockdown quite significantly. I started growing the seeds in April, just after lockdown started, and watched them grow. And of course, I've been eating the beans for about 3 months now as well. So that was quite a lockdown success. But today, yesterday, we made these stencils from card, and I showed you how to cut shapes and then stencil it onto the fabric using some kitchen sponges, just like this, regular kitchen sponge, but I'm going to just show you a slightly different process of making a stencil, a bit more abstract, this one. First of all, the most important thing is that you have a square of fabric. I've got an old shirt here that I've cut up. You could use calico or just any sort of medium weight sort of cotton fabric. This is quite lightweight really, but it's absolutely fine. And it's very important that it's 14 centimeters square, because then everyone's pieces will be the same size and we can sew them together quite easily. So what I'm going to do first is tape this to a piece of, it's quite thin fabric, so I'm going to tape it to the paper. It makes it much easier to work on. I've got some masking tape here. You could use sellotape if you wanted, that's fine, but masking tape's quite nice and easy to tear. And then I'm just going to just tape the edges down. It also gives us a nice bit of seam allowance there on the fabric to sew them up with, so it's quite a useful thing anyway. Right, now yesterday I was looking at, I was drawing some shapes and then cutting them out. Today I thought I would start with a square. This is just an old biscuit box, and I'm gonna start just with a cutting out a 14 centimeter window. I'm just going to draw around my template like that. Just stab it with the scissors, and then you can just, I'm going to do it slightly smaller than the 14 centimeters because it doesn't need to be. Cut around. So I've just got a frame. Now I've just got some more thin card here. I'm just going to cut some strips, some thin strips of card. I think maybe I'll cut about 7 or 8. But you know, you could actually, you could use, and you could cut, maybe you could find things that were already cut that you could. I was thinking actually that a doily, a paper doily would be a lovely thing to tape onto your frame. I don't know if people use doilies these days, but if you've got any knocking around that you've had in the cupboard for ages, can be a nice pattern. Or even, you know, when you make snowflakes from paper, you know, you fold up the paper. You know, these are all different ways of kind of making holes in paper that you could use as a stencil. So, having cut this to 14 centimeters, I know that this is the right size for what I'm working on. So I'm just thinking now, I'm just going to do, you know, you could play around with this here. What I'm doing is I'm creating barriers where the paint will not get to the fabric. So, you know, you can make any shape here, you know, like that. You can, if you can just sort of see, you know, that would be the pattern. You can sort of see the pattern that you would get from that. I'm going to make a more ordered pattern here. I was thinking of my runner beans again, so I'm kind of thinking maybe of like the bean poles. This is a bit more of an abstract approach to making a stencil, making a pattern. So I'm just gonna sort of arrange these like this. I think that'll probably be okay, like that. You can arrange them until you're happy with it. Then, or maybe I'll just fit one more in here. Then I'm going to get some tape, and I'm just going to grab that, all of those together on one bunch, and then to secure the other edges, I'm going to just take the top and then on the side. There. So what we've got now is a sort of cardboard framework with a pattern on it. Exactly the same process as we did yesterday. So I've got my square of fabric here, and I'm going to put that down on, you can, it's all white and white, but you can sort of just see the masking tape through, you know, that's the edges of my fabric there. So you could, if you want to be sort of double careful, you could tape this down so that it doesn't move on the paper. Okay, sorry about that. So I've taped that on there, and I'm going to get my runner bean colours again, In fact, I might do a bit of got some colours there. It's got two different greens, and I think I might sort of do a bit of a blend on this. So I start darker and then get a bit lighter. So I've got just an amount of paint on the sponge. It's really absorbed into the sponge, but there's not a lot on the surface, and I'm going to dab really quite lightly. Just like that. I think I'll just work in a bit more of these other colours. If you overwork it, then you can find it bleeds a bit. So for a nice smooth kind of edge, you just want to be, it's quite a light hand really. But I recommend doing several of these. You know, if you have several pieces of fabric lined up, then you can just play with it really. So okay, so I'm just going to take that off, and then you have this is the pattern, the original pattern, the first print. I think what I'm going to do with this now is do another one on top of this, but actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to dry this stencil off, because otherwise I'm going to get a mushy brown colour. So what I'm going to do just now is I'm going to get the hairdryer, which is over here, and I'm going to dry this. You can just wait for it to dry, but to be a bit quicker, I'm just going to do it with a hairdryer. Okay, so I've got my one going that way. Now I'm going to go for the same, exactly the same stencil, which we know is square, and then just do it from the opposite angle. So I've just put it on the back on the fabric, but the other way. And then I'm going to get this red colour. I've just used ice cream lids to mix they make perfectly good palettes for paint. This is acrylic paint I'm using. This is perfectly good for our fabric squares. Our quilt won't be washed. And you get good effects with acrylic paint. If you want to make them so that they can be washed, then you would need to use fabric paint. So I've got some red. I'm just going to do exactly the same. I think I've got enough here. Might need to add a bit of yellow. Oh, see, I'm wobbling, but that should be fine. You can always get it back. I'm going to put a bit more yellow on the on here. Okay. Again, it's quite absorbed into the sponge, and it's It is a bit sticky, but you kind of feel your way with it really. You just have to give it a go and sort of develop your technique. Right, okay. So, and there we have. It's a rather more abstract runner bean pattern. There. So, that's another way of making a stencil. One final way, which is a little bit more involved and a bit more advanced, is actually you might see up here I've got a little acorn pattern there that I've been working on, and I thought that might be quite a nice. I've drawn it onto this piece of card. This is quite a heavy card, but it does mean that the stencil will be quite durable. So I've got a craft knife here. Again, this is if you're a certain age, you may need help with this. Yeah, so if you're wanting to, you may need adult help with this, but I thought it would be nice to show in case there are some people who want to just give this a go. It's quite hard getting through and I'm just on a breadboard here. Just, you don't want to be cutting on your kitchen table, you'll ruin it. So this is going to come out there, and then so it does. It's a bit of a process, and you know, I suppose I've done quite a lot of this, so I'm quite practiced at cutting, but it's something that you get better at with time. There've been loads of acorns this year in the woods. I think it's been what they call a mast year, and so there's lots of food for the wildlife. Yeah, just there. I think that will do for our acorn design, just to try it. I've got another piece of fabric. Again, I'm going to tape it to a piece of paper, just to make it easier to work on. Just with some masking tape. And then, so we're going to get my sort of vaguely acorny sort of colour. It's kind of green. Apparently the squirrels like green acorns. The red squirrels certainly like green acorns. There we are, just got the paint on the sponge there, and I'm just going to, if you can tape it down if you want to be super cautious, but I'm just going to hold it in place and then just dab it on like that, and then there we have a little, I'll do another one here as well. There. You could carry on. You could do some leaves on that. An oak leaf is a nice simple shape as well to do, but this it's just a different method of making a stencil that you can stencil onto fabric. So whichever suits your ideas best for your COVID experience fabric square. So, and please do send them in to us, or by all means email us a picture if you don't want to part with it. But if you make several, then maybe you can keep some for yourself and send us some to make into our quilt for Ceredigion Museum. Thank you. Bye.